Chapter 9. I woke to loud banging. I tried to push the sleep from my head and remember where it was. The noise, the traffic, the pale light slanted through the window glazes. It was morning already. Still the banging, thump, thump, thump. I sat bolted upright and spun around to look behind me. The banging was coming from my room. A man was standing in the doorway, thumping his fist against the door frame. He was small and weary, wearing skinny jeans and a tight white t-shirt. His sunglasses sat perched on his slick black hair. His right leg jiggled, and he was chewing gum as he spoke. "Well, Melton boy, first day at work and you're late." I stared at him. He threw a pair of gum boots. They bounced on the ground and skidded to a halt against the mattress. The soles were warm. The rubber had split along the heel of one boot. "You need these for the job. I'll take them from your first week's pay." He sat out, chewing his gum. If you don't get a move on, I'll dock a day's pay too." I stumbled to my feet. So this was the doctor. I thought of Ma and the money that she'll need to earn. How could I have overslept on my first day? I pulled on my top and my shorts and slid into my feet into my gum boots. They were too big. My feet slipped inside, and maybe they were the last worker's boots. I wondered what had happened to him. I pulled the blanket straight on my bed and faced the doctor. "I'm ready." The doctor gave a short laugh. He smiled, holding a gold tooth in the corner of his mouth. "Really?" He leaned close. "No one is ever ready for the bears." I closed the door of my room and followed the doctor out onto the street. The sun had not been up yet. It hovered over the rooftops, a pale yellow bay leaf by dust and smog. The city was awake already. The tuk-tuks and the cars flooded the road. A line of the shaved-headed monks walked across the sidewalk, the saffron robes bright against their paler yellow of the morning sky. I watched them pass. Some were boys not much older than me. Some were not much older than me. They bowed to collect the offerings of the rice, and the woman kneeling on the ground. I saw Kim Mom's mother with them. She placed sticky rice into their bowls. My stomach ached with hunger. "I guess I'll have no food until later on in the day." "Hey, Melton boy, come on." I turned and stepped out onto the road. A truck horn blasted into my ear, and I felt the doctor's fingers dig into my arm and pull me back. The truck wing mirror stuck into my shoulder. The doctor glared at me. "Careful, Melton boy, you don't want to get killed on the road." He caught me by the elbow and half pushed and half dragged me through traffic. He pushed open the tall red gates of the bear barn. "We'll get the bears to do that instead." Beyond the high metal gates were bare dirt yard surrounded by walls. Bags of trash pooled in the dirty water were heaped up in the corner. A bicycle was propped up against one wall, and the motorbike stood on the other path of the clean concrete. A small office room was attached to the low concrete building. Sliding metal doors to the small building were firmly shut. It was strangely quiet in there too, dead quiet. Through the office window I could see a man slumped up in the chair, a beer bottle resting on his belly. His head was tipped back and his mouth lay open. He was half hidden behind a fog of cigarette smoke. "This way," said the doctor. He kicked open the door and the man shot up in his seat. The beer bottle fell into the floor. It bounced and spun, spreading a circle of trail of beer. The man picked up the papers on the table and shuffled them. "Asna." The doctor picked up the bottle and thumped it on the table. "I have found you another assistant." Asnang wiped his mouth and glanced between the doctor and me. His belly bulged from his shirt, some of the buttons long since missing. A spiral of smoke drifted upwards from his cigarette. The doctor gave me a shove. "Melton boy, this is Asnang. Asnang tells you what to do, and I tell Osnick what to do. Is that clear?" I nodded. The doctor picked up a shaft of paper and snuck them through. Beads of sweat ran down Osnog's face. It was hot and stuffy in the office. A broken fan hung from the ceiling. Piles of paper were stacked on the filing cabinet in the corner of the room, and the tabletop was littered with pens and cigarette butts. The shelves above Osnog's head were lined with small glass bottles. Some bottles were empty, others were filled with dark brown sludge. There were clear plastic envelopes on containing white pills and powders labeled with words I couldn't read. Each label bore the picture of a black bear standing on its hind legs, a white crescent on its chest. "Come," said the doctor. "It's time our mountain boy did some work." The doctor took off his sneakers and slipped his shoes into a pair of gum boots. On the way out he picked up a long metal bar from behind the door. As he gripped the middle, I noticed how clean and smooth his hands was. The farmer's hands at all. Osnog followed, sloping along in rubber boots. He stopped at the low concrete building. Osnog pulled on the sliding door, and as they rolled open metal graters of the concrete, I could hear movements from inside the building. It was too dark to see, and the only light came from the window grilles high up in the wall, cutting in the bright blades of the light across the roof space high above our heads. I covered my face as the stench filled my nose and mouth. The doctor turned to me. "Bear stink," he said. "Get used to it." The air from the building stank of dirt and dead things. It was nothing like the clean, earthy smell of the bear den. The building had fallen silent again as to whatever was inside was waiting for us. The doctor stepped in and reached up beside the door. Something deep inside. A light flickered and buzzed into life. Three strips of neon light up the rows high above the building. The doctor swept his arm and sighed. "Welcome to the bear barn," he said, and looked right at me. "It's time for me to introduce you to my bears."